Welcome to We Chat Divorce, hosted by Karen Shalou, Legal Liaison, and Katherine Shanahan, CDFA. Each episode, we sit down with divorce professionals and industry experts to provide insights and frank discussions about real people, real situations, and real divorce to help you achieve your best life post-divorce. This episode of We Chat Divorce is brought to you by My Divorce Solution, offering divorce financial planning so clients can secure the divorce settlement they deserve. Visit mydivorcesolution.com to request access.
Welcome to We Chat Divorce, brought to you by My Divorce Solution and hosted by myself, Karen Shalou, Legal Liaison, and Katherine Shanahan, Divorce Financial Specialist and CDFA. On these special explainer episodes, we answer the top questions about divorce, giving you confidence and clarity.
Today, we are going to talk about key financial information and documentation that demonstrates and supports your marital estate. So let's get started. Today is episode 2 in the series, How Do I Prepare for Divorce? Today, we're going to talk about gaining access to documents.
So gaining access or knowledge of financial documents in the divorce process can be very expensive, and it has to be completed in the formal litigation discovery process after you hire an attorney, because that's how the discovery process works. It's litigious, it's long, it's complicated, and very expensive. You can circumvent that costly and archaic way of processing financial documents in a divorce. Documentation, both digital and hard copies, is the lifeblood of divorces. For joint accounts, get statements as soon as you can and prior to the financial institution getting wind of a divorce, if at all possible. Because in so many cases, these representatives can get very skittish and not provide documents if they sense a dispute is going on. And if you're not the client typically going in, working with them, you're at a, what would I say? Disadvantage is the right word there. It may not be fair or right, but we see it happen many times. Go ahead.
Sorry, Karen. I'm thinking about the discovery process, and when you finally get the courage to say you want to get a divorce and you're panicked because you don't think you have access to anything. And so you go do a consult with an attorney and they talk about this, the discovery process, because you're going to ask, how am I going to get this information? I don't have access to it. So immediately they talk to you about, oh, we'll get it. We'll use the discovery process. And you feel a little better because you think that's what's happening. You're going to get all this information that you don't think you have access to. But then you get a bill, for $5,000 or $10,000 to get information that you probably could get yourself. Maybe not all of it, but at least some of it to save some of those costs. And I think that's what we're talking about here. If you're thinking divorce or you're in the middle and you can do some preparation for yourself, let's talk about accessing the things that you have, in your name or not in your name, but you have old statements or what have you.
Yeah, that's so true because, there is a way that, that's why people hire attorneys sometimes in the litigation process to get discovery. But what most people don't know is you have access to so much more information than what you may know. And, even another layer of complexity there, if you're starting out with little or no preparation and little or no documentation, and you're trusting, the litigation process to provide the documentation to you, you're going to be very confused and upset because what's going to come back through isn't going to make sense to you at all. It's going to be incomplete. It's going to be just a bunch of papers and numbers that you don't understand. And that's why we advocate so strongly to prepare, get the access to the documents you have access to, learn what they are so that they become building blocks to your next steps, to your point, Katherine.
Well, you bring up the skittish advisor that you might be working with or the bank that you might be banking with. It's so true. And yes, so unfair. But if you're not the primary person in control of some of these accounts, they don't want to give you information, even though they should. So yes, if you're going in without letting anyone know that you're getting a divorce or you're thinking divorce, and you just nonchalantly ask them to print you out statements, this is your best time to do it. I don't even care if you get 1 year, if you get 1 month. If you're going for 1 month, please do a year-end statement because it'll give us the most information. So you could do a December and a January. If you don't want to ask for every month because you're a little nervous, but yeah, call your financial advisor, call your accountant and ask them for your tax return from last year that you filed and signed. So you can get ahead of it and be really excited that you don't have to go through a discovery process to get that information.
So true. And you can get your tax returns from the IRS. There's so many ways you can get information that you just wouldn't know about otherwise. And a lot of people believe that if they don't have current information, what's the point? Well, if you have a document that's even a couple of years old, at least that's identifying the account itself. So that can be important. It can be important to the process, and it can be important to what information is needed.
I always love when we sit down with our clients and they say, they don't have any information, right? And you start just talking to them. Everybody just wants to be talked to, right? Everybody wants to tell their story. But in telling their story, you ask them, oh, did your husband or your wife work here for your entire marriage? No, no, they worked for another company prior to this. And were there any other companies prior to that? Oh, yes. There was one that, so right there, you've identified where there might be three places of retirement monies that were either never rolled over, maybe they were, maybe they were cashed out and you need to determine that, or they were just left with their prior employer because we all forget about things sometimes when we're quickly moving through life. So again, there's a lot of information that you don't think you have access to, but you actually do because you're remembering that. So again, just like those statements you mentioned, Karen, it's a place for us to go back and pinpoint what we need to ask for.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our financial preparation process is that not only are you learning about, what your options are for the division scenarios and so forth, but you're learning about what these documents are, where to find information. We help you with that. We give you instruction on who to call and what to say. And it really gets you far down the road because your other option is to go through the litigation process. And I can guarantee you that if you don't have information, you're looking at $10 to $20,000 minimum to get a full accounting if you do not have your own access to your information. And you don't need to do that because there's so many things you can do to get the information for yourself, or to Catherine's point, a big bulk of it.
Mhm. Yeah. I also see when people say, I don't have access to my husband's equity compensation, for example. A lot of times that's because somebody's telling you to ask for their W-2. Okay, so you feel great, you have their W-2. That's not going to tell you anything about equity compensation. It doesn't give you all the details. Or they say, okay, I have a pay stub. Okay, well, the pay stub's not going to tell you much either. You need the year-end pay stub or you need the ledger. But sometimes those papers are sitting amongst your other papers that you might not know the value to that. But if you see that, make a copy of that, tuck that away somewhere where you're saving documents, because again, it's very valuable to get this information beforehand.
Absolutely. So, in conclusion, access to documents is something that you can learn and be educated on. It's very important that you do the work or as much of the work on your own or in preparation so that you don't get stuck in the hamster wheel of the litigation discovery process, because that's just painful and expensive. It's really important that you can take step by step and learn these things for yourself.
Thank you for joining us on this second episode of Financially Planning for Divorce, gaining access to financial documents. It's not as scary as you think, and you can do it. Stay tuned for future episodes as we continue to unravel the fascinating world of finance and divorce. Remember, knowledge is power.
Disclaimer: the information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as financial or legal advice. Please consult with professionals in the relevant field for personalized guidance.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of We Chat Divorce. We hope this episode was informative and supportive on your divorce journey. If you're looking for more support for navigating divorce with confidence and clarity, head over to mydivorcesolution.com for more podcast episodes, divorce events, and resources for your divorce. We'll see you back here for our next episode.